like to call this meeting to order of the Clarksburg School Committee at 5:03 p.m. on Thursday, December 5th. We would like to open the meeting by welcoming our new town administrator, Rebecca Stone. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, just we've had a good, Jen had a good meeting, and it was good that Rebecca came to the last in-person meeting. So we invite her to attend tonight's meeting, and we have some, I think, some items on the agenda that she'll certainly may be involved with, and glad that she's here.
Minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review them from the November 7th meeting?
Yes.
Any discussion, comments, questions? I will make a motion to accept the minutes of the Clarksburg School Committee meeting dated Thursday, November 7th, 2019.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Moving on to the financial statement. Any questions, discussion there? I do not have any of this.
No, nothing.
Anyone make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the financial statement for fiscal year 20.
Yeah. Second. I second that. All in favor?
Yes.
Sorry. Tara, would you like to? Give us your report?
No PowerPoint tonight. Keep it short and sweet. You want to take one? Pass it down. Just some staffing updates. It feels like we just met yesterday, so it's just 3 weeks ago or so with the Thanksgiving break in there. So I don't have too much to update you on. But we did in the interim from the last time we met hire a math intervention assistant. We felt like in analyzing our MCAS scores, particularly for math, that we felt like we needed some extra support in the area. A lot of focus for intervention oftentimes falls on reading. And while we try our best to create those opportunities for math, sometimes it's hard to staff. So we looked at some of the grant money that we have coming in, and we're able to create an assistant position. So we've hired Natalie Howe from now until the end of the school year to work as a math intervention assistant under the direction of myself, of Ms. Johnson, who heads middle school math, and Mary Quinto, who's working, and Kim Rougeau, who's working with the 345 team to help set up small group intervention and assistance for students who might need that extra support. So I'm excited about that. That really helps a lot. And that sort of leads into the next agenda item, just teaching and learning. We focus a lot on where we can intervene for students. So in trimester 2, we've started, particularly for junior high, their schedule switches a little bit so they have new electives and we have opportunities for new intervention blocks to happen. So we look at data throughout the year. We start with our September benchmarks, but we have growth monitoring assessments, and we sort of look at where students are trending with their growth and seeing if we can intervene and add some things for them. So Ms. Howe is one of the people who's working with junior high in particular during that elective block of interventions. We have a schedule of teachers who are intervening on behalf of students in all grades. And just the exciting part is that students in grades 7 and 8 have an opportunity at new electives. We have Jim Callahan doing the cooking class. We have Chinese characters as a new elective, the drawing of Chinese characters. We still offer Spanish. We offer, one of the exciting things is CALM, which our new OT assistant, Caitlin, is running. So she's working with students on strategies to de-stress. She's using meditation techniques and calming techniques to help them when they're reaching a stressful moment, how to kind of manage that. And so this is a proactive teaching. We've targeted with our student support center, we have data now around who seems to need that kind of an intervention because they're visiting a lot. So we've, similar to assigning students to an academic intervention, we're assigning a behavioral intervention to help them calm. So that's once a week where they'll be in there for 20 minutes. I poked in there today was the first day for it, and I saw 3 boys they had weighted blankets, and they were listening to a meditative tape or app, and they were calm. They were very completely calm. And they looked really relaxed, and the feedback that I got from them was that they really enjoyed their time in there, and what we're hoping for is that they're utilizing those strategies in other moments during their day, and they can apply those. So that's a really exciting new thing that we've started. So the electives just give us some new opportunities to give students just new options, and we'll look at switching that around for trimester 3 too. I couldn't remember if we needed to vote on the school choice policy from last time. I still had this on my
It's on the agenda.
agenda. Okay,
Because we were
all
adding
right.
one line, I think, right?
Yeah, we were looking at that one line, which
Yeah.
I haven't clarified yet, I'll be honest. I didn't follow through on the clarification.
We don't have to vote tonight, it's just on the agenda, we can discuss it during the business.
Perfect, great. So, hold that, because I don't think it's going anywhere right now anyway. We do need to make sure that that's in place for the spring. I think that's a really important time. Just some events that happened in our upcoming, Clarksburg submitted pies for the pie contest in Florida. Florida Mountain School does a fundraiser every Thanksgiving, and so our junior high made pies. Some of those pies went for $45, I know. Yeah, so there were some high bidders for some of the Clarksburg pies. That was exciting to watch. We had the tree lighting happened in Clarksburg, the town field. I just talked to Ed this morning. He stopped by and dropped off checks for us. I want to thank the VFW. They very generously give to our school every single year at the tree lighting. There were very few people at the tree lighting this year because of the blizzard that came in. So I think Ed said maybe 10 people were there. And he understood. He wanted to cancel it, but they had the new fire truck there and everything, so he said they ended up coming.
Still did it Sunday night, wow.
They still did it, yeah. And he said there was really hardly anyone there. Anyway, he stopped by.
There wasn't anyone there.
And anybody here go? Is anybody there?
I think it was the fire department.
It was just a fire department, yeah. They gave to our PTG again, they gave to our 8th grade class trip, they gave to our band program, they gave to the cafeteria. So they always generously give, and again, they did that this year. So we're very thankful for the VFW for their generosity and their investment in the school. Upcoming, we have, some holiday events. We have, the PTG is organizing a holiday shop, which will happen next week, where students have an opportunity to buy gifts for their family, just small things that will be surprises for their family at home. We have a school concert coming up on the 17th. That'll be at 1:30 in the afternoon. And it'll be lots of fun here at Clarksburg School. That's what I have for events. And I know we have Superintendent Franzoni has building and facility agenda items, so I didn't have anything new to share on that front, and I can sort of close out my portion right here.
Save those for later for the
Yeah.
agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
John?
I think most of mine's during the, there's agenda items, most of the things I want to talk about, but I just wanted to mention that we had another negotiating session in November with the teachers union to discuss the 3-year agreement that we're negotiating. We did update the union on the timeline that we're discussing tonight for the building project that we're going to vote on later. The union said they were in agreement with that. I just asked Pam Babcock if she could stop tonight, just because she had a question about MOA for the time. I asked her, I wasn't sure what you were referring to with the MOA for the school committee timeline.
Oh, I was just I was trying to clarify for you that when I was asking about it, I was asking about it in order for it to be ready in line with this meeting or with the project or whatever when we were having that conversation. It was just like a reminder, hey John, remember this? It wasn't, that was really the ask, and then and the teachers are in agreement with having the calendar changed so that the way the work can be done.
Yeah, I don't think there's a necessary to have MOA though for the schedule, because it's like having 2 snow days basically, and adding 2 days on the end of the calendar, I think. I know that we're gonna discuss closing those 2 school days, which the school committee has to approve, but we just wanted, it was kind of like, I guess, wanted to make sure we gave notice to the teacher that we were gonna vote on that tonight.
Right, so that's what that sort of document, it could be done just with a simple letter. We could just draft something with the, even through a word processing document that you could just clarify.
Okay, I'm just not sure why it's necessary. Because it's not like the teacher's gonna have to approve the contract for the other school's calendar. I think it's not part of the agreement. I think there was a discussion about that yesterday,
Right,
wasn't
I
there?
think it came up in our negotiations, I was there as well, so I can speak to it as well. I think a lot of things, as you know, like with contracts and negotiations are often based on past practice. And if something is or is not past practice, it can change your work day, work schedule. And even though we're totally in agreement with it, it's just like a simple email just to say, we understand we're changing this year because it's needed, and it's not something that we expect will happen every year, that we're going to always be shifting calendars mid-year. So a simple, not necessarily it has to be an MOA, and I think that's why the union rep at the meeting spoke to it. So just basically, just a little like, we're agreeing to this has to happen, and everybody's in agreement with it. Just more like a paper trail, just to say it's not going to be past practice. That's all.
So you're asking for an email? Is that?
Yeah, it
It'd
can
be
even
simple,
come
yeah.
from us saying we're agreeing to the calendar change for this, just like, it's just basically to have in paper that we're agreeing to this change in the schedule. And even though we understand it won't be happening all the time, and we totally, as a group, understand why it needs to happen, just saying that it's not going to hopefully become a common practice, which I know it won't, and it's necessarily.
Well, truthfully, I don't know if I could say that though, because it's, with the building projects, the way they're being done, project by project, so we're gonna have to be flexible, I think, if we wanna be getting this work done and trying to get, I mean, it's great that Principal Barnes was able to obtain the grant. The unfortunate part of the grant was that it had to be used by December 31st, and the money came out from the state later than we anticipated. So I don't really think that, I don't wanna set the precedent of sending an email out, to be honest with you.
Right, well, I guess then that might allude to needing more of an agreement, because if now it might happen in the future. It could be instead of 2 days, we might have to bump something 2 weeks. So then we might have to like sit down at the table and talk about things going one way or the other.
Well, I mean, 2 weeks would be, I don't think we're gonna be looking to bump things 2 weeks unless it was done before the school year started, but I don't think that, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that I don't think it's, a necessary document based on the current contract that we have.
And we were working under the recommendation from our union representative.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That's what we could talk about next negotiating session, I think, but I don't necessarily think I want to set that precedent. So. I mean, we communicate. I wanted to make sure I let you know, and that was what we did at the negotiating session, to let you know we were going to vote on it. And I'm glad that Pam brought it up this week. I just, when conferring with both Jen and Terry yesterday, I just didn't think of MOA. Because truthfully, I mean, that involves us going to the attorney, asking him to make the document, and I don't think that's necessary.
I don't, not necessarily so.
Well, you have to have an MOA.
We wrote an MOA for the blizzard bags, we wrote an MOA for some professional development days, and it's really not the sort of thing where you're in disagreement. And I think it's actually a document that says that you are in agreement, and since teachers have voted previously on the school calendar, that's why we brought it up. And so, according to past practice, we were looking at the fact that the teachers have some say in when the school year starts, and we have some say in voting on the calendar. So I think we were just looking to make a document, and that's where our MTA rep came from when he said that you had to, well, not you, but we had to develop a MOA for the scenario. And So I was thinking that it needed to be in timing with this meeting and before the project started. So I was thinking, while I had some time on the snow day, I was thinking, hey, you know what? I haven't heard anything from Neil. I haven't heard anything from John. Let's make sure that all of our ducks are in a row for the upcoming things, and was curious as to where it was starting. That was my intention.
So, I'm sorry if I can interject. I'm wondering if there's maybe just some clarification that we need from both parties in terms of when an MOA is needed and when it's not. Because, yeah, we're all in agreement, and I can understand where you're coming from with wanting documentation, or you're worried about setting precedences or changing practices. So one of the things we talked about when we met as a small group was when we bring the calendar to the union reps, there's a vote because typically your contract says that you start the Wednesday after Labor Day. And what we've been doing for the last 5 years that I've been here is starting before Labor Day. So that is a break in your contract, clearly, right? And that's something that, so we haven't had an MOA for that. So that, I guess, so I'm wondering if we're opening up a can of MOA, so to speak, you know, that hasn't been past practice of us doing that. It's sort of been an agreement of, okay, yep, we'll all vote on it. You guys go back to the table, you vote on it with the CTA. Yep, Tara, we're okay, we'll start on this date. And then we sort of roll with it. And I guess that's what I communicated to the superintendent was, that's sort of how it's worked with calendar. And so I hadn't seen a need for, just personally, I'm just being very transparent, I hadn't seen a need for an MOA because of that past practice of not having one in that situation. If it's something that you feel like on the union side needs to happen for those things, and I think that's something we have to be really clear on both sides of the table when an MOA is required and when we're not requiring it. You know, when we can kind of say yes, we're all on the same page verbally and move forward, and when we need to.
Well, I think there's benefit in having it and having more of these things written down, because the details get lost if it's not on paper. And so after talking with Neil about it some more, he said, hey, well, maybe it isn't, you don't want to call it an MOA, you can call it anything you want as long as we start to document things on paper. So that way everyone can remember what happened, we can all know what the policy is, rather than, because and things are kind of informal in our small schools. We all wear many hats, and lots of things happen, and it's just a good idea to start that way. So if we're not going to do it for this scenario, we're all in agreement, it's just a paper that says we're all in agreement. I can see that from the CTA you're going to have other requests to have an MOA or have some sort of paper trail in the future. And I think that there needs to be a conversation around the calendar in general, because we're talking about blizzard bags, where we have a lot of snow days, we're talking about school renovations, and I think that it's a topic that's happening in other schools about whether or not to switch from a February vacation to an April vacation and make it a March vacation. So I think that it's a relevant topic, and it's a good time to get some of the stuff done on paper.
Yeah, I just point of reference for the teachers, as far as timeline for the renovation project, I still, I didn't know until Tuesday that this project was really going to be, so the whole discussion about those last couple of days really didn't become real until we opened the bids, just so you know. And as I plan projects, I'm really, I try to pay attention to what's going on in the building, just so you know. I can't speak to the MOA or not the MOA, but this particular project, which is causing this discussion, I gotta spend money, or I'm gonna lose it. So that's kind of the point we're at, and what prompted the second and the third request for closure. So just so you know that, until I opened the bids on Tuesday, I didn't know that this was gonna be a real thing. We were talking about it was all hypothetical to that point, just so you understand.
Yeah, and the teachers are very much on board. So it's not
Yeah.
one teacher that's upset about it.
I just kind of wanted you to
Yeah.
understand the timeline and that.
So, yeah, I think it's something we get into further discussion and negotiations. I don't think there's anything else we need to do tonight. We have a pretty tight timeline, so. Unless anybody else has something to say, I was suggesting we'll was later, it's later in the, yeah. That's just kind of
of that? I just said we should hold on at some point, so
Yeah.
do that.
That's all I got.
Nobody has anything to add?
Good.
Do you want to move into the new business?
Yes.
Okay.
Here are the first two.
Yep, we're welcome. That brings us to the school calendar. Here we are. Look at that.
So basically what we talked about last time was asking the school committee for an adjustment in the calendar where rather than have a full day on Friday, December 20th, we would have a early dismissal at 11:30 because as part of the bids we received about the entryway project, there has to be an asbestos abatement done, and they're going to start doing that work on that afternoon at 12:30, I believe. So we're, as we mentioned in the negotiation, we were just asking us to clear the building out by 12 o'clock that day. So we're going to dismiss the students at 11:30. Ask the staff to go and enjoy their winter break, and then they're going to get right to work on the abatement project that afternoon and all day on, or as long as they need on Saturday to finish it. So it's a pretty tight timeline with that project that both Tara and Jen have worked diligently on with the architects and getting the bids out on time, and we also communicated with the town through Administrator Stone to try to make sure we have all support all around, and then teachers obviously with the calendar. So that was why we had asked for the extra 2 days on the end to be, instead of coming back on January 2nd, we're asking for adjustment in the calendar to have the students and staff come back on January 6th, just in case there's extra time needed to complete the project. So that would give us Thursday the 2nd and Friday the 3rd to finish up the work. And we're hopeful that 90% of the work will be done by the time we come back on the 6th, but it'll be a lot better than coming back on the 2nd, put it that way. So this is money, again, just going to review, this is money that was obtained by Principal Barnes from the school safety grant of $35,000. I think, Jen, did you supply
Yes.
Yeah, we got a list of what the project's actually going to cost. It's going to cost significantly more than that because of all the work that needs to be done, including some of the tiling work that's going to be done in the front part of the building and covering the whole the tiles across that whole lower end of the building because of issues with some of those tiles cracking and popping up, and want to eliminate that problem. And as you can see from this upper area, it's been much nicer with what was done over the summer. So we figured while we were doing the front end of the building that for the entryway project, it would be good to cover those tiles up as well. And given our situation, that's the best way to do it. Do you want to add anything to that? So the request is to be closed on the 2nd and the 3rd and to have an early dismissal on Friday, December 20th.
Jen, do you have anything to add? Or?
I was gonna update on the projects under the renovation committee, but whenever you want me to report, I'd be happy to.
How about either of you, any discussion on?
No, I think it's fine. If that's the work that needs to be done, and that's the
Yeah.
professionals are saying, here's our timeline, then I don't see why we don't do it.
So I'll make a motion to change the school calendar for 2019 and 2020 for half a day, December 20th, and adding days out of school for January 2nd and 3rd, 2020.
And just to clarify, those two closures will be added to the end of the school calendar.
Adding them to the end of the school calendar.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
So I don't see it explicitly here, but is this the opportunity? I know the teachers also wanted to talk about blizzard bags, which we hadn't talked about earlier in the year. We know that the state is phasing them out.
Right.
But I did speak with teachers about the option of instating that one more year, because we've already had, 20 inches of snow? And we've already added, after this vote, 3 days at the end of our calendar. So there was, and please chime in, teachers who are here, if I am getting this straight, but there was a vote from the CTA about wanting to do this one more year, knowing that this would be the last year that we would be able to do this, because of the situation we're in with the building and the project extending it already because of the, the nice snowfall we got already, looking at where we might end up with our calendar. So am I describing that everybody was on board with wanting to instate that again if possible? Okay. So we would, and I think it was the same that we've already had in place, which is going 5 days with blizzard bags, and after 5 days, adding days to the calendar is what our policy had stated previous 2 years. And I can pull that up, but it's the same as it would follow the same path it did last year with teachers creating and differentiating blizzard bags, and you all kind of know as we did it before what that looks like.
You sent out a survey last year, correct? So I'm curious, what was the feedback from the survey? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but.
I can probably pull that up. I want to say it was about split.
Okay.
Parent survey 2018-19. I had 42 people respond. And 57% said they would prefer to have a blizzard bag sent home. And 33 would not. And 9% had no opinion. Sorry, I didn't have it prepared to bring out.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was an option, because I thought we had.
I mean, you can table the vote till January, because it's not technically on the agenda. I would suggest that you wait till January. to vote on that.
I was in favor of them. I'd be in favor of them again. But we can.
I think the only hard part that I'm seeing at this point in the year is I think the message has gone out to families that we're not doing them. And I don't know, so that's another thing I'd like to take some time to table it and develop that piece.
Well, we want to ask their opinion again this year, and we got their opinion
Well, I
last
don't
year.
know that they didn't go out to, I don't know that, I don't even know, I don't know. You can if you guys want
Did
to,
you
I
have
just
to?
think that I'm just hearing it for the first time. I imagine other parents, if they all of a sudden were like, oh, hey, actually we are doing those. After, I think it's been sent as a message that we're not, that maybe we should take some time to think about it.
I mean, we have a 2-week break before our next meeting,
Correct.
the holiday break, so I mean, it's not like there's a lot of days of school in between that time, so I mean, I think it wouldn't be unreasonable, just if you want to have a little more time to consider it and ask for, it's good that the teachers are in favor, I think so that's important, but I think it'd be good to, like you said, give some notice to people that we're gonna discuss it on at the next meeting, and get their feedback, and offer them the opportunity to come here and voice their opinion, like I want to.
And I'm happy to put out a survey. I can put it in my Friday newsletter. I can give them the results of this vote, saying that school has been voted to be closed on the 2nd and 3rd, so they're aware, and I can give them the new end date of the school calendar now that we have 3 days added to the end, so that everybody has all the information.
That would be great.
And then here's a survey to get your input. We're gonna discuss this at the January school committee meeting on this date, so everybody's aware. They can anonymously input some feedback. They can come here in January, they can, have a discussion, and then you could have some time to
That
take a
would be great.
decision.
Yeah.
Does that
Makes
work?
sense.
It does, yeah, and
Okay.
maybe, a discussion about how to obtain a more representative sample, because 42, pretty low.
I
And
sent
and
it
that's
out,
kind of, and I know it's kind of limited sometimes, through the internet, it's very easy to ignore, so I don't know if it would be a benefit of sending something home. Maybe you would get a better response, right? I don't know, something to think about.
On paper. I could do that. I mean, 42 is, when you think about, we have families with multiple children, so, we kind of cut that down. It's not horrible, but you're right, it's not, we would wish for more. And I can tell you, when I look at the graph of I asked everyone what grade level your child is in, it's not as if we're not getting responses from, you know, a certain age span. It's very equally distributed. It's around, you know, I mean, this is the high of the different grade levels that
Oh,
have
yeah.
responded. So it's not like there's a
Just
all
one,
primary,
right.
you know, or
no,
something
that's
like
actually
that.
quite good.
So you are getting a sampling of each grade level
Correct.
of
Yeah.
parents in this survey. So that may be, so I think it's pretty good data in that sense.
Yeah, and it's
That's
people
nice
who have an
distribution.
active opinion of it, one way or another, so that's,
Every grade is represented and it's pretty even.
Pretty even, yeah.
But I will definitely put it in my email tomorrow. I'll put a survey together tonight. We'll get out the information, we'll get some feedback. And I can, you know, I would like to do the paper option in some way. The thing that holds me back is I know that printing all that paper and then
Right.
not having everybody. So I'll brainstorm on that one, on how to get some of that out. I do know some certain families that we should definitely send to paper. Maybe I'll just kind of go at it that way, differentiate. Okay.
thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, if we can put it on the agenda for January, I think that would make sense. School choice policy, are we tabling this, or are we?
I think we had to
preparing
because
Mhm.
Okay,
we have
yeah,
the
yeah,
so we
final-
get that
I didn't coordinate
finalized,
with
okay.
Adam enough to fine tune that last piece.
The single signature warrant proposal. Discussion there?
I mean, honestly, I know we chatted about it briefly after the last school committee, but, you know, my opinion on the matter is that I feel like we have a pretty efficient system between the three of us. And my only fear is that by shifting it to kind of a single modality, it kind of, you know, puts additional pressure on that person, and, I think we're in contact with one another enough that it's relatively seamless. That's my feeling on the matter.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, my opinion is we have a good team effort intact. And it's not always, one of us isn't always able to be there. And the fact that we can revisit this whenever.
At any
current-
time.
Yes.
Makes sense to me, so.
And just as an update, we are in discussions with the town about, you know, potentially combining, having Clarksburg be since Clarksburg is the largest of the towns in North Berkshire School Union, having them, their financial department take over the payment of those shared union expenses and be reimbursed by the other towns. So it's something that I know Jen has been working together with, Don Estes very closely about, so I know there's been ongoing discussions about that, and, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, we're still working out the details. We're hopeful that we'll be able to start January 1st, but it will be only for our union expenses, our utilities, our payroll, just the shared service people, and all of the union office expenses. So we just really need to work out the logistics of it. But as you know, it takes some time. But that will, you know, streamline, and then we'll just bill out an assessment to the other communities. So I think it will be more efficient
Yeah.
for all parties
I think
involved.
efficiency is the key, because again,
Yep.
we're in that issue with the power company again this week, with the, you know, having to wait for all the checks that come from all the towns, and then they're late, and then everybody's saying they're gonna turn our power off in
Yeah.
the union office. So it's because, you know, it's just logistics of it. It'd be much more efficient to have one town
Mhm.
doing that.
And it'll make our vendors much
Right.
happier instead of getting 4 checks, so I have one.
Okay, that sounds good, and we'll just continue as we have been. So, I don't know, we actually need to vote on that, but not changing anything.
If you're not gonna vote to approve it, I would say you're just leaving it alone.
Continuing business, the interstate merger proposal.
Okay, so we had our meeting with the two finalists for the coordinator position for phase 2. It was held up in Stanford, it was last month, and it was well attended by the school, both school committees. We had, I thought, good representation of Clarksburg with, I said, all school committee members, myself, Jen Maxey, Deb Roselli, Rebecca Stone, were all in attendance to be part of that vote, along with the Stanford contingent. Both groups were very strong, but it was determined by a reasonably close vote that PCG, Public Consulting Group out of Boston, would again lead that work. There has been some discussion already about having potentially some conversation with Jake Everwine of the Berkshire Group to maybe do some work with them as part of the local work that needs to be done. For phase 2, that's going to be about to be discussed further between those two groups and the interstate committee. I do think, one thing I mentioned, and I talked with Laura about this last week, that I think there's a little bit of a need to have the interstate committee meet and discuss some more of it. I think we're a little bit divided there about what our plan is. I know there's a plan on the table to be looked at is the location in Vermont for the early childhood, pre-K through 2, and having a grade 3 through 8 model here. I think, given that the way MBSU is structured with 5 independent districts, we cannot, it's going to be logistically almost impossible to take on Stanford as a 6th member of the North Berkshire School Union. Having that location in Vermont is going to be a very challenging next piece of this agreement, I think. So there have been some discussion about, would it be possible to, have one location in Clarksburg? Would it be possible to have any other MBSU towns available to take the Stanford students in? Just because that's going to be the big complicating factor in terms of pensions, licensure, funding, transportation, everything that we're trying to do. I completely understand Stanford's position. They want to continue to have their building functioning as a school. But I think that's going to be a big part of this next piece is, is that realistic, I guess, in terms of what the obstacles it's going to create. So I think that's something that we need to have some discussion about, what each town as part of this next phase is willing to compromise about and not willing to compromise about, based on what the findings are of the consultants to determine what's the best course of action. And is it possible to get the legislation needed to make that work? So there's concerns about that, I think, and I think there's concern on this end, and I think that's something that we unfortunately don't have a ton of time tonight to talk about it, but I think it might be something that the school committee considers going forward is what is our goals for this, what's our overall overarching goal for this project. Just throwing it out there for your consideration and potential discussion down the road, because there's it just feels like that both towns are they're in agreement that this works education-wise, just on the surface of combining 2 buildings. But unfortunately, because they're both in 2 different states, there's a lot more complicating factors that we're, I think, coming to realize the more we discuss this, including, DESE pushing back about some of the regionalization. Like, they asked us, why are you looking at regionalized with Vermont? Why aren't you looking within Massachusetts? And we said, well, we did. We reached out. We had a conversation at our last NBSU meeting, and it was clear that the joint committee wanted to stay under the same structure from that we've been maintaining in NBSU for many years. So, so we have done our diligence there, but they may be pushing for some other options too that we may have to consider, even though I know it's the ones that we do not want to.
Do we have a date for the next interstate merger?
We do not, so I think that'll be something that we should probably, and I discussed it with Kim Randy too about, she agreed that she felt like there's certainly need for discussion between the 2 groups about our goal going forward. I know when I spoke with Laura last week, we agreed that we should sign off on the agreement with PCG to let them start doing their work. I did have a good conversation with Anna. She's sending me that contract, and I will get that. So once I have that, I think what we should do is probably call a meeting, get together, sign the contract, and then have some more discussion.
Yeah. I mean, again, we have the money, and that's what it needs to be used for, and
Right.
it can't be used for anything else, so that only makes sense to me. I understand Stanford's position and how this merger will work for them and benefit them. I struggle to see all the benefits for Clarksburg in the long run, and I think that's just something that needs more discussion, partly because we had a former member of our committee who was a big part of the merger discussions, and, you know, it wasn't necessarily the three of us, but I just think that we need to really focus in on what we will get out of this for Clarksburg and, you know, in the long
Agreed.
run. And I just think more discussion is definitely warranted.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I think one of the things that we talked about, a benefit to Clarksburg is the potential for having a pre-K program, and we are
Right.
going to, in the next month or so, have more talks in regard to a potential Clarksburg, Florida shared service for pre-K, hopefully in September. So, you know, I think we can't wait much longer, and any longer really, to have our own pre-K program in Clarksburg in terms of offering the services that are required for children on ed plans, in terms of just giving our families the option of having a pre-K program to get their children into being prepared for school. And, you know, pretty much every town around us has one except for Clarksburg, so I think it's something we really have to explore.
And I'll just add to the discussion, the other piece, you know, our need for space is still real for the pre-K, but also some specialized programming for us in district. We have more students that we are seeing that have a need for a specialized program that we don't want to send out of district, and we're not able to serve students at times because we don't have those programs. We don't want to send them out of district, and we, you know, so that piece is still real. And I think for our town to realize that space is it's an issue, and we would like to create programs, but where? So there's that piece that I just think that we have to keep in the conversation as well alongside the preschool discussion.
Well, and I'd like to see if we can explore the option of utilizing the library space in some way, shape, or form more, and I don't know how we exactly go about that, and, you know, who needs to be on the other side of the table in that discussion, but I think there's a lot of valid points there that,
Definitely.
you know.
We had a good discussion with, you know, Mr. Boucher from the select board, and we also, when Jen and I met with Rebecca, we mentioned, but it was her first week.
But we
so I don't think
just
I
keep
throw it out
mentioning
there
it,
first
and I
week.
think.
Yeah, no, I think it has to go
we need
forward and really
right.
be, I agree, there's some space in this town that can be utilized more effectively, and I think that library space is one of them.
Yeah, we definitely, I mean, since the vote did not pass and the town has voted to not renovate and add some space to this building, you know, it's clear that the needs are still there. Those needs didn't disappear, you know, just because we voted no for that project. So while we've worked on the boiler and we worked on securing grant money for the secure entrance and we worked on piece by piece trying to renovate this building, that space issue is still a big piece of what we were seeking during that vote. And one of the things the state said was that we were underrepresented in space for special ed. So the town, I think, just needs to keep in the forefront that conversation that that's still there. And so what spaces do we have to accommodate that need that hasn't gone away because we voted no to this building? And like I said, some of us have been talking about it, and I just think it needs to be a larger conversation in the town in general, just so that we're all aware of what these needs are here.
I just wanted to take a minute or two, just, you know, again, my first week or two talking with John and with Jen. One of the things that we're working on is, you know, part of our Green Communities grant, I'm seeing, you know, out of like 20 projects, we had 2 of them done. And one of them was only thanks to the 2 administrators that are sitting here to make sure that that happened before the school year started. In the meantime, nothing had been done for like 2 years. The paperwork sat there, nothing got done. And so I'm hoping to maybe bridge that gap between, I hate to say it, the town hall and the school, because there's so many projects, you know, capital, you know, I've requested this year capital projects from department heads so that we can find out exactly, and maybe all of this maybe this part I've missed and I didn't see that, what happened at town meeting, you know, trying to get that line of communication open so that we know exactly, you know, if the space that's here at the library maybe the library could go somewhere else. They didn't think the senior center would be surviving without making it a community senior center. I could see very much having the library staff at that senior center and that coordination between the seniors and the children. I mean, that would just be perfect. It would free up the space here and maybe I just want you to know I'm working on trying to keep that dialogue, you know, going, be working, I've only met with these two, but I'd like to sit with you to find out more, maybe find out what happened at town meeting, and, I don't know how the vote went, I haven't gone over every article, I don't know how long ago it happened, but, even you've said tonight, there's been some changes, just with the people, it sounds like, at the table, and, a lot of times, change is good, we can try to get there together, and I think that's what I'm hoping can keep moving forward, and trying to find out what you need for space and what it is that's lacking here. And I've already started discussing with the state about going through that wish list, getting some of these other projects done, but also taking the next step to work on the next projects that are out there. And space needs, things need to happen so that you can keep getting the services out there that you're not able to meet with the state. So that, this is a beautiful area, the northern Berkshires is it's a prime, area for people to be moving to, and it would be a shame to have to turn away students because you don't have what you need here. So I just want to let you know that we're going to start working on all of that with meeting with you and, long before town meeting happens.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Rebecca's been great about communicating, and she and Jen have been really communicating quite a bit, and it's really off to a good start. I think it's been a nice improvement with her active engagement about trying to find out what's needed and what the town can do to work together with the school on these projects.
And I'm putting in our capital improvement request right now. That was acceptable.
Well, that's great. We look forward to working with you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any more on that?
No, so I think, just as far as, I guess you got into the building repairs a little bit too, as part of the renovation merger discussion. So we'll move forward with the merger contract. I'll let you know, schedule a date for that group to meet and get the contract signed, and I know PCG is ready to go. Oh, before I forget, another good piece of positive news is that PCG, one of the real strengths of their proposal, of course, was their past work, but also the fact that they have the former commissioner, David Driscoll, former deputy commissioner, working as part of their team. So I talked with him on Tuesday of this week, and he's going to be coming out on Monday, December 16th. So I was going to talk to Tara about that tonight because he wants to come to Clarksburg first, go to Stanford second, and then just meet with some people and just get a look at the school, which I think will be good to have his eyes on the school, and get some feedback from him because he's already aware of some of the concerns we talked about tonight and wants to be helpful in attempting to address them.
Great.
So he has some of that political clout that we really could use in terms of, getting our building. I think just to say what Rebecca said, this is a beautiful area. This town has always had a strong school, and our best option is to keep the school open to educate our children. But we need some more space, obviously, and there's some options on the table with the existing building, but what else can we do? Because that was the recommendation of PCG from their first project, was that a building repair plan has to be part of the, has to be present to engage in a merger discussion. As far as building repairs or renovations, the update is, I think we talked about the plan for the entryway. Jen, do you want to discuss the financials?
Yeah, just to go through the timeline first, so all of our guests understand where we're at. The building will close at 12 o'clock on December 20th, and we will do an abatement of the stairs leading to this section of the building, the teacher's room, as well as the entryway coming into the building. Those are the areas that we felt needed the most abatement quickly. So our plan is to do that abatement into Friday into Saturday, and get all the testing off to the lab by 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. provided that all goes well and we get a clear go-ahead on Sunday, the tiling company and the demo crew will come in and start tiling the section from the stairs and the hallway down to the entryway, the teacher's room, and then they'll coordinate tiling that front piece where the glass is gonna go. You know, we've got a lot of things riding here. The first is that the building gets cleared. And then the second thing is that the frame for the glass itself will be here by December 20th. So we're really working on a tight schedule. The contractors that we're working with have been very, very responsive to the time schedule. They understand that we're under a short window. I just want to be really clear with everyone that we will probably be at 90% when the students come back. It will not be done. The glass will not be here. But our goal is to get all of the demo work done, all of the framing, all of the loud, gross kind of stuff done while no one's here in the building. So that's the plan. We're going to ask everybody for their patience when they come back in January. And our hope is, you know, middle of January we'll have the glass in and that will be that. And then we work on our next phase of projects. But just bear in mind, this is just a Band-Aid. This is just a Band-Aid. Granted, the entranceway and the secure piece of that will be wonderful. That will make the police department very happy, and it should make our parents happy that we'll have a system that people can be buzzed in. And we'll have cameras and those kind of things. But there's a lot of work to be done in this building. So this is just a Band-Aid. So I gave the school committee a quick analysis of where we're at. You know, we're looking at a total project, and please keep in mind that this includes tiling and asbestos abatement, which is expensive. At about 104, 35,000 is going to come from the Safer Schools grant, and the balance is going to come from the debt exclusion vote from the town. I always carry a 10% contingency in all of my bids, so we do have some wiggle room there if we run into something that we didn't anticipate. The spec for the asbestos removal and the tile is pretty tight. I don't know what we're gonna run into when we open that wall. We're told that it's clean, but who knows once we open it. So, you know, just think of us all during Christmas break when we're here with our hard hats on. Another important thing is that I think it's important for the taxpayers of Clarksburg to remember that, you know, whether it's grant funding or not, it's $100,000, and if we had SBA assistance and it was part of a larger program, you know, we'd only be paying about $40,000 maybe, and the rest would come reimbursed from the state. So that's what we're up against. I respect the fact that, you know, this is the approach the town wants to take, but I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm sorry, Rebecca. But I'm excited to have more dialogue with Rebecca and talk about how we can really look at the full needs of this building, because that is a big concern. As far as the next phase of construction, we're working with a couple of different architects on rekindling the old feasibility study from the proposed renovation to prioritize what our next steps are going to be. I hope to have something to talk more with you about in January or February, because I need to get those bids out on the street so we can start construction when everyone leaves, and be prepared for an on-time opening in September. You know, the days of just painting and you know, tuning up something here are done. We really need to be aggressive, but we only have so many dollars to work with. So more to follow on that. Just everybody keep their fingers crossed that we get a green light on Sunday and we can get the rest of the work done. But I can't say enough about the contractors that we're working with, Abide, Berkshire Carpet, and Hilltown Demolition. They've been very responsive to understand the needs in the short time period that we're working with. So more to follow on that in January.
Thank you.
I also that Jen and I met with Bob and Lauren Norcross about some of these ideas too, just so because I know the renovation group is kind of, I think, gone down to basically being Bob and Tom Bona. So I know that, and they've been great communicating with us and helping, but I think like Jen said, these projects that we're doing are more than just doing some work outside on a weekend. These are all major projects that have to go through a bidding process and have to be funded. So just to echo her point, is there's gonna be some expense involved with them, so we're trying to do it as efficient as possible, but by doing it piece by piece, it's more expensive that way. So more discussion will be good, maximizing the use of the building will be important, and I know there's also, when we had our talk with Rebecca, she was also in favor of the town and the school developing a master plan for what the long-term goals are for the buildings and school building and just town roads and buildings, so it's important that, I think it's great that she's in agreement about that. Now we have to, have some more discussion with the select board about how to make that happen.
Which we're doing on December 11th.
Right.
Do you have anything else?
No, I just want to say also that I did put our next meeting at Thursday, January 9th, because the school's not going to be open on January 2nd, so I thought it'd be, probably wise to not do the first Thursday.
Yes, please don't.
It'd be interesting.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Is there anything else? To adjourn this meeting at 5:59.
Very efficient.
Thank you all. I was trying to wait till it turned, but. Thank you. Thank you.